Hi, my name is Jose Gutierrez. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Westlands Water District, and I'm here to provide an update on our water supply. The last time we spoke was about a month and a half ago in early March, and the hydrology conditions continued at the rate that we were experiencing with above average conditions, and we've all been blessed with above average precipitation and snowpack. This is one of the latest reports from the Department of Water Resources, and this is the 8-station precipitation index. And again, this area goes from about Stockton in the south up to Reading in the north, and the area shaded in blue, again, is the average precipitation. And in early March, when I last reported, the precipitation was slightly above 50 inches. I think it was about 52 inches or 51 inches up to that point in early March. And we're currently sitting at about 61 inches. So we've gained about 10 inches on average for that 8-station index. So things are continuing well above the average. And that wasn't just in the northern part of the state, that was also in the center part of the state, or the San Joaquin precipitation 5-station index. And again, in early March, we were above 35 inches, and we're currently sitting at about 44 inches for average precipitation for the 5-station index. So again, well above average for this state, and greater than 4 inches above the annual total of average of 40 inches. So we're doing much better than the annual total at this time. There's still about 4 or 5 months to go, but we've received the majority of the precipitation that we are going to experience for this year, and we might get some more storms going forward, but probably not very much because we're leaving spring and entering into summer. And then that is also illustrated, the totals are also illustrated in this bar chart. And the big month that we experienced was in February. You can see we experienced or received about 22 inches of precipitation when the average is only 8.2, and that trend continued into March about being above average. I mean, not like we experienced in February, but the average is 7.6, and we received 9.7 inches of rain in March. In April, we're tracking at average, so if it stopped raining today, we would be just at average for the month, and we still have about a week and a half to go for this month. So doing very well, not only on precipitation, but we're also above average for snowpack. And here is the illustration for the north, the central, and the south totals for snowpack. And in each of the regions, we're well above average at 132% for the north, 144% for the central, and 131% for the south. And again, the snowpack is important because this is our natural reservoir. It's starting to heat up. We're probably going to start seeing an increase in the snowmelt. That water is going to recharge our reservoirs and be available to us during our peak irrigation season. Now, the last time we spoke, I was talking about our allocation, what we were expecting the allocation to be. I was forecasting 70% at a minimum. So Reclamation did come out with their allocation announcement last week, and it was 65%. I think that was disappointing on many levels because based on this data, we're well above average for precipitation, well above average for snowmelt, and we expect that there's enough runoff currently flowing through the system to support a much greater allocation than 65%. In my opinion, at this point, there's no reason that we should be anywhere less than 75% based on how much water is in the reservoirs and how much water has been pumped out of the Jones pumping plant to date. And I'd like to discuss some of the restrictions that we're currently facing at the Jones pumping plant. In April and into May, we're operating under something called an inflow to export ratio restriction. And basically what that means is the Jones and Banks pumping plant can't export any more than 25% of the flow on the San Joaquin River measured at Vernalis. And Vernalis is around the city of Modesto. So even though currently there is about 75,000 cubic feet per second. So that's about a 150,000 acre feet per day is flowing through the delta. 150,000 acre feet per day. That's an enormous amount of water. But because of the inflow to export ratio, we're limited to pumping 25% of the flow measured on the San Joaquin. And currently the flow measured on the San Joaquin is about 10,000 cubic feet per second. So combined, both Banks and Jones can only pump 25% of that on a daily basis. So about 2,500 cubic feet per second combined for both exports, even though 75,000 acre feet or cubic feet per second is making it into the delta and flowing out of the delta out to the Golden Gate Bridge. So that's a little unfortunate. I mean, that's just the regulatory restrictions that we're living with for April and May. But I mentioned the temperature's warming up, the snow's starting to melt. Potentially, with this increased snowmelt that's entering the reservoirs, they might need to increase releases out of those reservoirs to manage the flood space. So if they release more water into the San Joaquin River, that potentially could increase the flows measured at Vernalis and hopefully increase pumping at Jones and Banks pumping plant, and then potentially translate to an increase in allocation for us. So we're at 65% allocation now. We're hopeful that Reclamation will increase the allocation going forward, and we'll end up the year greater than a 65% allocation because there's certainly enough water in the system to support that. Hopefully the next time we speak, we're sitting at something greater than a 75 or 80% allocation for the end of the year. Thank you very much. Talk to you next time.